Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me today for our live presentation on the top 7 destinations you can travel to this year with Amtrak Vacations. Really appreciate you folks taking the time out of your day to spend with us this afternoon. I will be your host today. My name is Colleen McCarthy, and I have been with Amtrak Vacations for almost the last 8 years now. And I've had the very good fortune, the very great opportunity to have traveled on many of the amazing Amtrak routes across our country. And I've been able to visit many of the fantastic top destinations that we are going to look at today. So if you do have any questions about the destinations, what life is like on board the train, or anything else, please feel free to type those questions away at any point throughout today's broadcast. You should see the questions box on your screen. It is typically located usually on the right-hand side. It's anchored over there somewhere. Please feel free to go ahead and type any questions you like all throughout today's broadcast. I will answer as many as we have time for at the end of today's presentation. Now, I can tell you from experience that we do usually get quite a lot of questions. So if I do not have time to answer yours live on the broadcast, do not worry. I will make sure that somebody from the team does reach out to you and send you the information that you need. So we will get everybody's question answered, even if we don't have time to do them all live. Now, you should see as well that you do have 3 handouts available today for you to download. We've got our wonderful Amtrak system map, our downloadable map. We've also got some great information about some local destinations that you can visit this year, as well as some information about our flash sale. We've got a wonderful sale going on right now that has been extended. It now ends this Friday. We'll talk a little bit about that later on in the presentation, just so you can see all the great savings that are available to you. But of course, our main topic is the top 7 destinations that you can visit this year. So we will talk about 7 amazing places here, East Coast, West Coast, in between national parks and cities. We've kind of got a good mix for you. We'll also look at some great vacation options that include those destinations, just to give you a sense of how you can combine up that destination with some wonderful train travel. We will look at what life is like on board the train. I've got some great photos and pictures here for you folks, showing you what the different types of accommodations are like on board Amtrak. So you can see pictures of those roomette cabins and bedroom cabins in the daytime and at night. We'll also talk, of course, about how Amtrak is adapting to provide a safe environment in these times, especially if you were looking to travel this year. We'll talk a little bit about social distancing, masks, and everything that Amtrak is doing to keep things clean and sanitized and safe for you. Now, just a little bit about us before we get started. So, Amtrak Vacations is the official partner of Amtrak. We provide the vacation piece. If you want to go on a train vacation, we are your go to. We've also got a couple lovely sister brands. Our Yankee Holidays brand is our original brand. They were founded actually in 1972, so been in business for quite some time. And then our sister company, Rail Bookers, if you are ever interested in travel outside of the USA and Canada, perhaps you'd like to take a train through Europe, Asia, Australia, South Africa, we can connect you there all throughout the world with Rail Bookers. But of course, today's presentation is about Amtrak Vacations. And if you've been on any of these broadcasts before, I apologize that this is a bit repetitive, but I do love to start out our presentation by showing you folks the Amtrak system map. I just think it does such a great job of illustrating all the amazing places that you can travel to all the way across the US and up into Canada on board Amtrak. So every one of those lovely brightly colored lines represents a different Amtrak route. You've got the famous Empire Builder in blue going through the northern part of the US, the California Zephyr, the Southwest Chief, the Coast Starlight. Now what you should be able to see here is that Amtrak does travel to 46 out of the 48 continuous United States. And they also have over 500 stations all across the USA and Canada. So wherever you're coming from, and wherever you want to go to, we can pretty much get you there by train. So we can always start you out from your hometown. You will see that a lot of the different vacations we are going to look at today start from a major city like Los Angeles or Chicago. But do not worry if you do not live in a major city, that is no problem. You may already be located on one of the larger Amtrak routes and not even realize it. For example, Omaha, Nebraska is right there on the California Zephyr. You can hop on the train right from your backyard and you'll be on one of the major routes that goes across country. If you were connecting through a slightly smaller station, no worries. It's very easy to change trains on board Amtrak. We'll just connect you through one of the larger stations. If you check your bags will be checked all the way through, so you don't even have to worry about it when you change trains in the station. And pretty much all of our connections are same day connections. So you'd arrive, let's say, into Chicago. Let's say you want to go from the East Coast out to the Grand Canyon. You can connect through Chicago. You'll arrive in Chicago in the morning. You'll have a few hours to spend in the station, grab a bite to eat, maybe a deep dish pizza, get that Chicago experience, and then connect onto your Grand Canyon train a little bit later that afternoon. So very easy to connect through onboard Amtrak as well. Certainly, if you have any questions about that, do let me know. And before we get into our destinations, I do want to let you folks know because we have extended our Discover America sale, and that allows you to save up to $500 off your reservation per couple. If you were interested in planning a vacation now, this is an excellent sale to take advantage of. Just depending on how long you travel, that determines how much you save. So on your shorter trips, a 3-night to 6-night getaway, you can save up to $300 per couple. 7 to 9 nights is $400 per couple, and 10 plus nights is $500 per couple. Now, of course, if you are traveling as a solo person or maybe as a group of 3 or 4, do not worry. Of course, these savings do still apply to you. So, for example, that $500 per couple would just be $250 per person. So without any further ado, I do want to jump into 7 top destinations that you can visit this year. So we have tried to select a variety of destinations, which will be good to visit this year, this late summer or fall, or even into the winter time in 2020 here. And our first destination is the Grand Canyon. If you have not been to the Grand Canyon before, I genuinely cannot recommend it highly enough. It's one of my favorite places to visit anywhere in the world. It's absolutely a breathtaking place. And this first trip here, the Rails to the Grand Canyon package, is so wonderful because it's a great way if you've never traveled by train before. This is a really great trip to take a look at because it's just 2 nights on board the train. And we make everything very easy for you with transfers and things like that being included into your trip. We just make it very easy for you every step of the way. So I just want to walk you through a little bit what your experience might be like. Now you'll start off on Amtrak's Southwest Chief train. So the Southwest Chief is pretty famous. It travels from Los Angeles Union Station all the way through to Chicago Union Station 2 days later across the country. But in this case, you'll be going just from Los Angeles out to Arizona. Now, do keep in mind if you do upgrade to the roomette or bedroom on board the train, or any of the types of different cabins, private accommodations on board the train, you do have access to the station lounges in the larger stations that do have them. So Los Angeles will have a station lounge, Chicago will have a station lounge. And what that means is that before your train departs, you have a comfy, cozy place to wait. You can get away from the crowds. It's again good for social distancing. They've got comfy chairs up there in the lounge, a lot of TVs if you want to make sure to catch the end of the game or whatever it might be before you board the train. And then they'll make an announcement for boarding for the Southwest Chief. And if you do have those roomettes and bedrooms, you do have priority boarding. So again, you can skip the crowds, beat the crowds that way. They'll make the announcement over the loudspeaker in the station, and everyone will proceed in a tidy, orderly fashion at your leisure down to the train tracks from the lounge. Now, you do board that train in the early evening, so you can get settled in and then have a nice dinner, perhaps. Maybe grab a cocktail in the lounge car, take in some of that beautiful scenery at sunset, and when you wake up the next morning, you will be in Flagstaff, Arizona. Now, the Amtrak train doesn't go all the way to the rim of the canyon itself, so you get a bonus train ride in this particular vacation. So what will happen is when you wake up in the morning, you'll be in Flagstaff, Arizona, as I mentioned. You'll get off the Amtrak train and grab your luggage, and then we'll actually bring you right from the Flagstaff Amtrak station to the depot for the Grand Canyon Railway. So we'll pick you up at the Amtrak train station. We'll bring you to the depot for the Grand Canyon Railway. We include a breakfast for you at the depot. So before you leave, you do have a nice hearty breakfast. And then you take this really lovely 2-hour, 15-minute sightseeing train up to the south rim of the Grand Canyon. This one is really lovely, folks, because it is a beautiful sightseeing train. You actually go through one of the largest ponderosa pine forests there in the U.S. You've got some great choices available as far as seating on the train. So they've got the dome car, for example. They've got the parlor car as well, which is a little bit more luxurious there. And what's really neat about this Grand Canyon Railway train is before the train departs, they have a little Wild West cowboy show right there at the depot. And then the cowboys actually will get on board the train during your journey and play songs on the ukulele and kind of entertain you on this journey up to the Grand Canyon. Now, once you arrive in the Grand Canyon, the depot is right there in the center of the village, right at the south rim of the canyon itself. So, with this vacation, we do have you spend your 2 nights at the canyon inside Grand Canyon National Park, right at one of the historic lodges right there inside the national park, which is so great. Now, when you stay outside the park, let's say you want to see the sunrise over the Grand Canyon. I'm not a super early riser myself, but I highly recommend it. It's a truly once in a lifetime opportunity there to see the sunrise over the Grand Canyon. If you were staying outside the park, you'd have to get up extra early, try and get everybody loaded into the rental car, drive out there, try and find parking, and then try and take the shuttle to the rim. It's really sort of chaotic start to your morning. Versus with our vacations here, we do have you stay at one of the historic lodges right inside the national park. Just depending on which lodge you stay in, you might be a 5-minute walk from the rim, or you might be literally on the rim itself with a view from your room, just depending on what you are looking for on your vacation. So you can get up just a few minutes before that sunrise, stumble out of your room, take in that breathtaking sight, and then maybe head back to your hotel for some coffee. So it's really comfortable, convenient, great location there where we have you stay. So just a quick glimpse at the Grand Canyon Village. On the left-hand side of that image, you can kind of see those train tracks. I don't know if you can see my mouse moving there, but the train tracks come in. That's the Grand Canyon Railway train. You can see they drop you off right in the center of the Grand Canyon Village. You'll be just minutes away, literally less than a 5-minute walk to the rim of the canyon itself. And then there's all kinds of different trails and tours if you wanted to take a hike or even just a stroll. It's very easy walking at the rim itself. They've got nice paved flat area with a railing. So if you're not necessarily a hiker, I'm not so much of a hiker myself. There's also quite easy trails for you to just take a stroll and get in some incredible photos there. So this trip here is a 4-night trip total. It's 2 nights on board the train and 2 nights up there at the South Rim. After you stay at the South Rim, you'll just take that Grand Canyon Railway train back down to Arizona. We'll pick you up at the depot, bring you right back to the Amtrak station for your overnight journey back to Los Angeles. Now this one is quite affordable. It starts at $6.99 per person. Now that is based on 2 people sharing the room. So all the prices we'll talk about today are based on 2 people sharing a room because that's the most common occurrence. But if you are traveling as a solo traveler or a party of 3 or 4 or 5, no worries, we can certainly accommodate you. Just call us or call your local travel agent and we can get you that information that you need as far as the solo pricing or triple pricing, whatever it might be. Now this price here, $6.99 per person, is based on coach accommodations on board the Amtrak, just to start out. But of course, I know that everybody wants to know how much is it to upgrade to the roomette? How much is it to upgrade to the bedroom? And the reason that we don't give you those prices up front is just that they're very changeable. They're super subject to change depending on loads of different factors. So where are you going? When are you going? When did you book? How many other folks had booked before you? Are you eligible for any of the great discounts that Amtrak offers? All kinds of different factors there. But just to give you an idea, because I do think if I never tell you the price, you assume it's expensive, and that's really not the case. On this Rails to the Grand Canyon, so this one, again, just remember, is 2 nights on board Amtrak. I looked at the end of October for you folks, just the last week in October, as of this morning. The prices were $110 per person to upgrade to the roomette and about $315 per person to upgrade to the bedroom. And just remember, that is 2 nights on board the train, so $110 per person for the roomette or $315 per person for the bedroom for both nights on board the train. That's also 2 meals on board the train because you get dinner on the way to Arizona, you get breakfast on the way back to California. And of course, you have your own private accommodations. We'll see all the great photos of those at the end, but just to keep that in mind. Now, with this package, it is eligible for our Discover America sale. So if you folks were interested in taking a trip like this, I do highly recommend that you think about booking this week when that sale is going on, because you could save $300 off per couple, and figure that the roumette's only going to cost you a little over $200 per couple. That's literally getting that roomette for free plus a little extra savings. So just keep that in mind as well. If you were thinking about planning a vacation, this is a good week to give us a call, or call your local travel agent. Of course, they can get you any and all of these discounts. And now, as we go through, I just want you to keep in mind that all of these trips are customizable. So I mentioned it before, but we can easily have you start from your hometown. We can have you connect through a larger station if you need to, or a lot of the times you don't even need to, because you might already be on one of the larger Amtrak routes and not even realize it. Also, all of the itineraries themselves are customizable. So not only can you start from your hometown, but you can also add extra nights to the trip. So for example, our Rails to the Grand Canyon package here, if you'd like to add extra nights at the Grand Canyon, that is no problem. We can add a third night, a fourth night, however many nights you'd like to spend there. We can also upgrade you to the famous El Tovar Lodge, which is right on the rim of the canyon itself. You can have a beautiful dinner there, right in the El Tovar with a view of the Grand Canyon. So that's very popular for folks. Of course, that is subject to availability. So if you do want to travel this year especially, and you are looking for the more premium lodge, call us pretty soon, or call your local travel agent as soon as you can, just because that space does go fast. We can also add extra destinations to your itinerary. So this one started and ended in Los Angeles. It's kind of designed for folks who might be in that Southern California area already. But let's say you want to come from Seattle and head on down and then across to the Grand Canyon. We can easily add extra nights in Los Angeles for you if you've never been there before and want to take a look. We can add hotel accommodations and sightseeing. Great little extra vacation to Los Angeles on this one for you. So do keep that in mind throughout. All of our trips, you can add extra nights, you can take away nights, we can add extra destinations, we can customize your sightseeing, we can also customize your hotels. So all of our destinations, typically we have 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star options. Slight caveat to that is the national parks. Usually in the national park, we don't have a 5-star option, just because most of the parks, they have a limit on the number of hotels, and they've got the beautiful old historic lodges, which are incredible to stay in, but not maybe what you think of as a 5-star experience. So, but everywhere else we do, New Orleans, Boston, Chicago, Seattle, LA, we've got 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star options for you. So we've got a wide variety of different types of hotels as well. If you're loyal to one hotel brand, we do work with many different hotel brands: Marriott, Hyatt, Hilton, Sheraton, Holiday Inn, all those guys. We also have boutique options for you if you want something a little bit more unique and kind of boutique. We also pride ourselves on having great locations for our hotels. So all of our hotels are very centrally located. They are either going to be very close to the train station, or very close to sightseeing, a major sightseeing attraction, or in a lot of cases both, because a lot of the Amtrak stations are right there in the center of town. So for example, in New Orleans, which we'll see in a little bit, we've got a hotel that's right near the Amtrak station. So within walking distance of the Amtrak station, if you wanted, maybe you were just going to stop in New Orleans on your way across country just for the night, and you wanted someplace very convenient to the station. But of course, most people in New Orleans want to stay in the French Quarter, that famous French Quarter full of food, dining, culture, jazz music, everything there. So we've got lots of hotels of various different options in the French Quarter for you as well. So just to give you an idea there. Now, our next trip featuring the Grand Canyon is the Grand Canyon Zion National Park and beyond. And what's so incredible about this trip is that it gives you an opportunity to see 5 national parks in just 7 days. Now, this one starts and ends in Flagstaff. So we left it open a little bit on where you might be coming from, because we can get you here from your hometown quite easily. So Flagstaff is located right on that Southwest Chief route that we saw a moment ago. And as I mentioned, that route does stretch from LA all the way to Chicago. but easily we could have you connect through Chicago on the one side or through LA on the other side. So wherever you are starting out, it's pretty easy to get out to the Grand Canyon in just a day or two. So we start out in Flagstaff and then head up to the Grand Canyon. You'll then go on to Springdale, Utah, and then on to Moab, Utah, before you come back down to Flagstaff. So the first destination, of course, is our featured destination for today, the Grand Canyon. Now, the Grand Canyon, as I mentioned, if you've not been, uh, you really need to have it on your bucket list. It's absolutely unbelievably breathtaking. The first time I saw the Grand Canyon, I genuinely didn't believe it was real. It almost looked like a painted Hollywood backdrop because it just literally stretches on and on and on as far as the eye can see. It takes up the entire landscape. It's over 277 miles long. It's 18 miles wide at its widest point and up to 1 mile deep at its deepest point. So uh, no matter how you turned your head in every direction, it just stretched out. You could genuinely spend hours just staring at it because as the sun moves around, as the clouds move around, the light plays on the different sort of rock striations and creates all these beautiful color patterns. And you can really get some incredible photos. Also, of course, keep your eyes peeled for wildlife because there are bighorn sheep and elk out there, deer. When we were there a couple years ago now at the Grand Canyon, after taking in the sunset, we headed back to our hotel. We were sitting on the little deck area of our hotel, drinking a cup of coffee, and a whole herd of deer came through, just totally silent, stopped right in front of us, ate some grass, and then moved on. It was just such a really special experience that you can have there at the Grand Canyon. And after your 2 nights at the Grand Canyon, you continue on to Springdale, Arizona, Springdale, Utah. I apologize. Springdale is in Utah, and it lies right outside of Zion National Park. Now, the town of Springdale itself is quite lovely. It was actually named one of the top 20 prettiest towns in 2008 by the Forbes Traveler magazine, their travel section. And as I said, it is right in the shade of Zion's cliffs, as you can kind of see right in the photo there. And so the point of call for Springdale for the 2 days there is to explore Zion National Park as well as Bryce Canyon National Park. Now, Zion, we suggest you do first just because it's right there at your doorstep. Zion National Park is the first national park in Utah. So it's Utah's first park. They have 5 altogether. It's their first designated park. It's known for its stunning sandstone canyons, as you can kind of see in that photo there, all those beautiful pinks and reds and tans. Those canyon walls stretch to over 2,000 feet at their tallest point. And the entire sort of geological features of Zion National Park were formed about 250 million years ago, just to give you a little bit of scope on how long ago some of these incredible rock formations were formed there. So there is a really lovely scenic drive that you can take through Zion National Park. Now this tour does include a rental car, folks. So this one really gives you that freedom and flexibility to explore all of these amazing Utah parks, especially because we do have a rental car included for you. Now what we will do is we'll give you an audio guide that you can download for each park to kind of give you a sense of where to travel and what to see throughout the parks on your free time. This one here, after, of course, you do Zion, you'll want to continue on to Bryce Canyon National Park, which is known for its incredible hoodoo rock formations. So the hoodoos are those tall, sort of spindly spires that you see in the photo there. Bryce Canyon is the largest concentration of hoodoos anywhere in the world. Kind of fun. You can stroll along the canyon rims, or you can take a scenic drive out to Rainbow Point. Now, that scenic drive out to Rainbow Point does have 13 special sightseeing stops along the way, which we'll identify for you, where you can get out and take some pretty incredible photos there. And after your visits to Zion and Bryce, you continue on to Moab, Utah. Now, Moab, Utah is really fascinating. It's right in between 2 of the most popular parks there, Arches and Canyonlands National Park. And it's really surrounded by some incredible sandstone cliffs and those landscapes there. So from Moab, that's your base to explore Arches and Canyonlands National Park. These are 2 more of the national parks there in Utah. So Arches, of course, is most well known for its arches, right? It's beautiful natural arch formations which rise hundreds of feet off of the desert floor. Now, these are all natural formations. These are not man-made. They're pretty incredible to see. Arches National Park does offer an 18-mile scenic drive, as well as a lot of different opportunities. If you were interested in doing any hikes, Arches is a great place, and Canyonlands as well, to do that. We can helpfully point some of those out to you. And then Canyonlands National Park, that's the bottom photo there. That Canyonlands, largely that landscape was formed by the Colorado River and its tributaries. It's located there in southeastern Utah, and it's got 4 distinct sort of sections of the park that you can visit. One of the most famous is called the Islands in the Sky. It's just big, huge plateau that you can visit. It's really quite stunning. So this trip here, the Grand Canyon, Zion National Park, and beyond, does include 5 national parks for you. It's 6 nights stay altogether, 2 nights at the Grand Canyon, 2 in Springdale, and 2 in Moab. And it does include that 6-day rental car for you. Now, certainly, we include the midsize car sort of standard there. That's in the starting from price of $9.99 per person. But we also have loads of other different types available. If you'd prefer a larger car, maybe an SUV, we can certainly do that for you. That's no trouble at all. And because it is 6 nights, this one is eligible for our special savings offer this week only of $300 per couple. So just keep that in mind as well. Now, I know that it is a little bit of an unusual time to be planning a trip right at the moment with all the sort of different travel restrictions, and we're not sure when they might lift. But we are trying to make that as easy as possible for you to navigate here with Amtrak Vacations. So we've created what's called our maximum flexibility offer. So our maximum flexibility offer, what that does is it allows you to book your trip now. So book your trip anytime before the 30th of September. And it does not matter when you travel. You can travel this year, next year. You can travel in 2022 if you want. We actually can book you right up until 2 years in advance here at Amtrak Vacations. So you can go all the way through right now, plan your trip through the summer of 2022 if you'd like. So it doesn't matter when you travel. If you need to make any changes, so if you need to change your dates, change your itinerary, change your destinations, or if you need to, you can cancel that trip right up until 5 days prior to your departure, and you would not incur any change fees or any cancellation penalties. So let's say you wanted to book this week and take advantage of some of the great Discover America sale offers that we have. You can do that, and it doesn't matter when you travel. If you need to change your dates for any reason, it doesn't have to be health related or related to COVID, but it can be. Can be for any reason. You can change your trip or cancel it right up until 5 days before you're scheduled to depart with no additional change fees or cancellation penalties. So really what it does is it allows you to book with confidence, knowing that if you need to make any changes, you can absolutely do that. So just want to point that out here for you before we get too far into all the great different vacations that are available. Now, our number 2 top destination to visit this year is Yellowstone National Park. The national parks folks have been very popular this year, as you can imagine. Wide open spaces, not too many people around, nice fresh air, and Yellowstone is no different. It is one of the premier national parks to visit in the US, and the trip I wanted to feature for Yellowstone does combine it with Grand Tetons National Park. And I think this is such a great fit because the Grand Tetons National Park is so close to Yellowstone that it's very easy to do them both in one vacation, and you kind of get 2 really amazing national parks really in one experience. The other reason that I wanted to highlight this particular journey is because it does feature what is probably my favorite train ride anywhere in the US and possibly anywhere in the world, and that is the California Zephyr train. So the California Zephyr train will leave Chicago. You'll travel 1 overnight on board the train out to Salt Lake City, stop off there for the night before heading up to Yellowstone and Tetons, and then head on back down to Salt Lake City where you can continue your trip if you'd like. Now, the journey there from Chicago to Salt Lake City is really breathtaking. One of the things that makes the California Zephyr train so special is that it passes through so many different types of scenery along your journey, different types of beautiful, breathtaking scenery. Now, this train will leave from Chicago in the afternoon. So you can arrive in the station in Chicago a little bit early, spend some time in that station lounge if you like. If you are upgrading to the roomette or bedroom on board the train, you have access to that lounge. They'll make the announcement again over the loudspeaker, and you get that priority boarding on down to your train. Get settled into your roomette or bedroom, or certainly you can do the trip in coach if you would like to do it that way, and that's totally an option for you as well. Now, when you leave Chicago, you'll cross the Mississippi River, which is a pretty neat experience in itself. And then you travel through the Great Plains that afternoon, which are really quite lovely, especially in the spring and the summertime with wildflowers there. And then even in the fall, because everything kind of turns golden in the fall, especially because you'll be going through this part of the journey right towards sunset. So it's really lovely as the sun's setting over these sort of rolling golden fields. Very pretty. And then when you wake up the next morning, you'll be just hitting Colorado. You'll be just outside probably Denver, Colorado, depending on what time you wake up. And that is really the incredible day of sightseeing on board the train, because from Denver, your train is going to climb up into the Rocky Mountains. So you'll have these snow-capped granite peaks on either side of you. Your train will be going around winding curves and through hand-carved tunnels for several hours. And then as you descend out of the Rocky Mountains, you start to follow the Colorado River for a couple hundred miles, which is a really neat experience. You can actually wave to the kayakers on the river. They always kind of wave to the train as you go by. And then as you come into Utah, the scenery really changes again, and you get this beautiful kind of sandstone cliffs, the red rocks, a little bit similar to the Utah parks that we saw in the previous slide. You can sort of see that on the left-hand photo on this page here, the sandstone cliffs rising above the Colorado River. And you'll go through that really tremendous scenery throughout Utah until you come into Salt Lake City later that evening. Now, we do have you stop off in Salt Lake because you get in a little bit later in the evening. So we have you do your first night here before continuing up to Grand Tetons National Park. Now, this is another trip which does include a rental car. We have had a lot of demand for rental cars this year. I think a lot of folks want to have that sort of private experience, especially with social distancing. If you were thinking of traveling this year, might be a good choice for you. But if you do not want to rent a car, do not worry. We do have different trips to Yellowstone which do not require a rental car. We have transfers and sightseeing tours, and you do not need to rent a car. So it's just up to your personal preference. This particular trip does have a rental car included, and that's great because it means you can add Grand Tetons National Park into your Yellowstone journey. Now, Grand Tetons National Park is in northwest Wyoming. And it does, of course, encompass the entire Teton Mountain Range. That's what it's sort of named for, is those Teton Mountains. It does have over 310,000 acres of spectacular, pristine wilderness. We do include a tour here for you. It's a wildlife tour of Grand Teton National Park, so you can get out and try and see some of those elk, bears, bison. They're in Grand Teton. And it's also a beautiful place to visit in the fall. So if you were thinking of traveling this year, you do get some beautiful fall foliage in both Grand Teton and in Yellowstone National Park. Now we have you spend 2 full days in Yellowstone National Park, so you can have a chance to do what's called the upper loop of the park and the lower loop of the park. If you do those 2 different loops of the parks, you will be hitting pretty much all of the major sites to see. So Old Faithful Geyser, of course, I'm sure you've heard of, but you may not know there are actually over 300 geysers located throughout Yellowstone. There is the Grand Falls of Yellowstone, the Yellowstone Falls that you see in the photo there. Of course, Yellowstone is certainly known for its wildlife. They have elk, bear, wolves, bald eagles, and of course the bison. So Yellowstone is quite well known for the buffalo, the bison that roam throughout the park. Friends of mine, coworkers here, were actually there last year, and they had to stop along their way for a bison traffic jam. They actually had to pause while the herd of bison crossed the road, so they got some tremendous photos of that. So certainly keep your eyes peeled for wildlife throughout your stay at Yellowstone National Park. So again, this one here, Yellowstone and Grand Tetons. It's a 6-night trip altogether, 6 nights, 7 days. It does include, of course, your hotel accommodations as well as your rental car and the trip on the California Zephyr train from Chicago out to Salt Lake City. Now, this is just 1 night on board the train, but it is quite a full day of sightseeing there. It does include 4 meals on board the train as well, or I should say you're on board the train for 4 different meal times. You'll be on board the train for dinner the first night, breakfast, lunch, and dinner on your next day. And what's great about that is if you do upgrade to the roomette or bedroom on board the train, all of your meals on board the train are included for you. So on this trip, I looked at the end of September on this one for you because it does get a bit chilly a little bit later in October. They actually close up one of the entrances to the national park in October. You can still visit, but one of the entrances is closed. So I looked instead at the end of September on this trip for you. As of this morning, the roomette would be about $75 per person, and the bedroom would just be about $162 per person. So again, very affordable upgrades there, no matter which way you'd like to go. And you do get to take advantage of that $300 per couple savings if you do book during the Discover America sale. So keep that in mind. Now, our next top destination to visit this year is San Francisco, located in Northern California there. Now, we've paired it up in this particular trip with Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington, because it's a really lovely journey on Amtrak's Coast Starlight train from San Francisco up to Portland and Seattle. So you get a lovely 7-night journey here, so 6 nights hotels and 1 night on board the train. Again, this is a really nice one if you want that overnight train experience, but maybe you don't want to commit to a full 2-week cross-country train itinerary with 6 nights on board the train. This one is a good trip if you've never been on board the train before, but you do want to do an overnight journey. It's a really lovely ride from San Francisco up to Portland on that Coast Starlight train. But of course, first you are in San Francisco. Lots to see and do in San Francisco there, and we have a few great tour options included in this vacation for you. So we include a tour out to Muir Woods, which is the bottom left-hand photo. Again, sort of on our theme of wide open spaces, you've got the massive towering grove of redwood trees just outside the city there for you to explore. And then we include a bay cruise, so you get out on the water, get some of that fresh salt Pacific air. You can get some great photos of the Golden Gate Bridge from that bay cruise. And of course, there's so much to see and do in San Francisco. You have the Fisherman's Wharf area right down on the waterfront where you can get incredible seafood. You have the Golden Gate Park, all sorts of different places to visit there in San Francisco during your stay. And once you've completed your stay in San Francisco, you will board Amtrak's famous Coast Starlight train for your journey up to Portland and then on to Seattle. So the Coast Starlight train, of course, is most well known for its beautiful coastal scenery. It hugs that California coastline for several hours during your journey. So you get some incredible views of surfers and seals in the Pacific Ocean there. And then as you continue on up to Portland, Oregon, you start going through the Cascade Mountain Range, which is really quite lovely as well. You get snow-capped mountains in the distance like Mount Hood. As you come up on towards Seattle, Mount Rainier, you have the towering pine trees going through the Cascades, as well as you go over several lovely rushing rivers and things like that. So really pretty, actually, different scenery on the northern part of the Coast Starlight, less about the coast, more about the rushing rivers and mountains and sort of that tall Pacific Northwest scenery there. Now, when you stop in Portland, this is a food lover's paradise. Lots of different kind of cuisines and dining options there in Portland. Of course, they are, again, right on the water, so you get some great seafood. And then we have you continue on up to Seattle, where we include some great attractions like the Space Needle. So we include the Space Needle and the Glass Garden exhibit there in Seattle, as well as a tour to take you around the city. But of course, as I mentioned, all of our sightseeing is customizable, so do keep that in mind for this and any other vacation that you might be interested in. Let's say, for example, you are afraid of heights. You do not need to go up to the top of the Space Needle. No worries, we can very easily swap out a tour or an activity that might be of more interest to you. So let's say instead of the Space Needle, you would rather visit Olympic National Park or visit Mount Rainier. Both of those are easy day trips out from Seattle. We can add either one of those to this itinerary for you with no trouble. So this one here, the Pacific Northwest trip, starts at $10.99 per person. That's based again on 2 people sharing. Now with this one, you can save actually $400 off per couple. So great savings offer on this one as well for our Discover America sale. And it's a 7-night journey altogether, 6 nights hotel, 1 night on board Amtrak. So it's an 8-day total trip here. up to the Pacific Northwest. Now, in addition to our great sale that we have going on this week, we also have some wonderful everyday specials for you for the Amtrak part of your journey. So if you or anybody traveling with you qualifies for any of these discounts, there are child discounts ages 2 to 12, senior is age 65 or older, or Amtrak does have military discounts as well, both for active military members and their dependents, as well as for veterans. So keep that in mind as well. You might qualify for some extra savings. Make sure you mention that when you call us or call your local travel agent. So folks, I should mention your local travel agents are fantastic. They can book any of these Amtrak Vacations trips here for you. They can assist you on any one of them. So if you do have a local travel agent that you like to work with, feel free to give them a call and ask them any questions about these trips. They'll work with us to put together the perfect vacation for you. Now, our number 4 destination, I really had to tie them. It's really Charleston and Savannah together. They are both beautiful cities to visit. Charleston, they're in South Carolina, and Savannah, they're in Georgia. And very easy, pretty short train ride in between the two cities. It's about 2, maybe 2.5 hours in between Charleston and Savannah. Now, Charleston is the first stop. It's 3 nights there in Charleston. We do have some lovely tours included there for you, a city tour, as well as a tour of the Magnolia Plantation. Now, Charleston is a really historic city, a lot of great culture. Both cities, of course, Charleston and Savannah, are known for their Southern comfort foods. You can get some incredible meals in both Charleston and in Savannah. They're both waterfront cities as well. So Savannah, we do include for you a sightseeing cruise as part of your journey there, as well as a hop-on, hop-off style trip around the city. And what that does is that allows you to take the trolley. So it's a trolley. It's narrated while you're on board the trolley to tell you all about the history and different attractions that you're going past on your journey. You can hop off at whatever stop might interest you. Maybe you want to get off at one of the beautiful squares, or we're down at the waterfront. Once you hop off your trolley, you can explore at your leisure and then hop back on the next trolley to come along. So it's very easy and convenient way to see the city without trying to figure out any of the strange, local transportation networks or anything like that. Very easy to get around in your hop on, hop off trolley. So Charleston and Savannah are both beautiful southern cities. They both have incredible food, lots of history and culture, lots of different museums you can visit, historic houses that are open for the public to view. And with both of these cities as well, if you were looking to travel this year, they're both really lovely to visit right in sort of end of November, early December time. They both do a lot for Christmas. They'll decorate. They've got big, huge trees, in the main squares. Everything's all lit up with lights. Everything's decked out with greenery and the red bows and the wreaths and everything like that. Really lovely. Just they really do a lovely job at the Christmas season, and the weather is quite nice as well. So if you're located, maybe you're up on the East Coast, maybe northeast like I am, and it gets to be pretty chilly in December time, head right on down to Charleston and Savannah as a little getaway at that time of year. It's very comfortable. You need a light jacket, but not much more than that. Typically, of course, now that I say that, we'll have a chilly winter, but really lovely places to visit, especially if you were looking for some place to go this year. Now, next on our list here, our number 5 top destination is New Orleans. So our New Orleans Ultimate Getaway includes a lot of different sightseeing, sort of all packed up into this 3-day itinerary, well, 4-day itinerary, 3 nights, 4 days all together here. New Orleans, of course, is such an incredibly vibrant city to visit. They've got incredible history and culture. Talk about food. You could spend your entire visit to New Orleans just trying all the amazing Cajun and Creole cuisine. There's jazz music pretty much in every corner in the French Quarter. And our trip here does include dinner, or a brunch really, at a popular local restaurant. So it's actually outdoor seating. It's in a beautiful courtyard at a restaurant right in the French Quarter. So you've got that outdoor seating, spaced apart from each other, especially for folks looking to travel this year. And you've got beautiful, wonderful Creole and Cajun cuisine that you can try there. And there's actually a jazz quartet playing during your meal. So it's a really lovely experience out there in that beautiful courtyard. We've also got an attractions pass, which will get you into over 20 different museums and attractions. They're in New Orleans. They've got an incredible aquarium with an albino alligator. They've got the World War II Museum is quite popular. They've got a lot of beautiful historic house museums in the French Quarter if you wanted to tour what those historic houses looked like back at the turn of the century and before. You can do that. And there's a lovely museum right in Jackson Square, right in the heart of the French Quarter. There's also a Mardi Gras exhibit, a museum where you can see those giant Mardi Gras floats all year round. And then we also include for you a choice of a swamp tour if you want to get out on the water in one of those airboats out in the water there and see the alligators. Or you could choose from a jazz cruise, so an evening jazz cruise on one of the historic paddle wheel steamboats that goes out on the Mississippi. Again, it's up to you and what you like to do on your vacations. We've got a lot of different choices here on this New Orleans Ultimate Getaway. And New Orleans is very easy to get to by rail, so it's connected by 3 major rail lines. So you can go south from Chicago. It goes pretty much straight south down through Mississippi, Louisiana, into New Orleans on the famous City of New Orleans train. You can come from New York or Washington, D.C., or lots of places on the East Coast on the Crescent train. Or you can come all the way from Los Angeles on the West Coast on the Sunset Limited, which goes from California through Arizona, through Texas, and on to New Orleans. So very easy to get to New Orleans by train. And this New Orleans Ultimate Getaway here starts at $429 per person with the 3 nights hotel accommodations and all of those great sightseeing attractions included. Now, if you are on the eastern side of the US and you want to have a little getaway up in the Northeast, we do have the Boston Ultimate Getaway for you. So Boston, of course, nicknamed the Cradle of Liberty because of all the great American Revolution historical sites that you can see. Different stories about Paul Revere, John and Samuel Adams, some of our famous locals up here in the Boston area. Now, with this trip, we do include dinner at a popular local restaurant as well as an attractions pass. So similar to New Orleans, we've got an attractions pass. You can go visit many of the wonderful museums and different attractions in the Boston area. We also have that hop on, hop off sightseeing tour to get you around the city. You don't have to worry about figuring out the subway system or anything like that. You can use the hop on, hop off to get around. And this 3-night trip here, you are eligible for that $300 per couple savings, so do keep that in mind. And actually, it's very easy to combine up Boston with our last top destination for 2020, which is Portland and Acadia National Park. So Portland, Maine, and Acadia National Park up in northern Maine. So very easy to combine those with Boston. There's a lovely train ride called the Downeaster, which goes straight from Boston to Portland, Maine. Really pretty foliage. Again, if you folks are looking for a foliage kind of fall trip, this is a really lovely one to do in September, October here. Acadia National Park is located in Bar Harbor, Maine. It's known for its rocky beaches and granite peaks, and as you can kind of see in the photo there, kind of a little bit see in the photo there, when the leaves start to turn, it gets really lovely. You'll see it in my next photo a little bit better. And then Portland is a really neat little place to visit. It's Maine's largest city, but it's not too large, I promise. Very easy to walk. It's a bustling kind of seaport town, your sort of stereotypical Maine town, if you will, but it's got a lot of neat little galleries and boutiques, historic sites, lots of great dining, great New England clam chowder. You can, of course, get Maine lobster in Portland and in Bar Harbor, which is your jumping off point for Acadia National Park. Now, this one does include a car rental as well because you do need that car to get out to Acadia. But again, if you did not want to rent a car, you could very easily do Boston and Portland together. The train will connect them, no car needed. But on this one here, Portland and Acadia, we do include the car for you so you can really get out and explore the beauty of Acadia National Park. Now, I do want to touch on before we go what it is like on board the train, because I know that we've looked at some incredible train routes and some great places you can get to by Amtrak, but I do want to give you a little bit of understanding of what it is like on board that train. So just quickly before you get on board, a little bit about what you need to know for packing. So you can take 2 free carry-on bags, as well as 2 checked bags wherever checked baggage is available, which is most stations, but just ask us or your local travel agent when you call, and we can tell you if your station has checked baggage. Now, if you are checking bags, we do recommend that you get to the station right about an hour before your trip. If you are not checking bags, if you're just going to be going, let's say, on a weekend getaway up to Boston or down to New Orleans, you do not need to check your bag. You can arrive at the station about 30 minutes prior to your departure. Now, with those bags, if you are not checking bags, there is a baggage area in the front of each train car, a luggage rack. So you can leave your suitcase in the luggage rack if you've got a larger bag, and then just pick it up when you get off the train. With the checked baggage, it does work similar to an airplane. Once you check the bag, let's say you're checking your bag in Washington, D.C. and heading down to New Orleans, you won't see the bag until the following day when you arrive in New Orleans. So you do want to make sure that anything you need during your journey, like your toothbrush, your phone charger, your pajamas, make sure you have all that stuff with you in a smaller carry-on bag. Now, I know that as you think about traveling here, of course, for everyone, their personal safety of yourself and your family are going to be first and foremost in your mind. So I do want to touch on just a few things that Amtrak is doing to create a safe travel environment at this time. So, of course, they have enhanced their cleaning both in the stations and on board the trains. They do require facial coverings on board the train and in the station. So do keep in mind you will need to wear the face mask throughout your time in the stations as well as in any public areas of the trains, and that does include the coach seating. Now, if you did upgrade to a roomette or bedroom on board the train, you can take off that mask inside the privacy of your own room, which is another really nice feature of having a roomette or bedroom. You can take that mask off in your private room. Now, Amtrak is limiting bookings, and what that means is they are deliberately reducing their capacity so that there will be room for social distancing on board the train. So if you are going to be traveling in coach seats, they will make sure to leave space between your party and the next party. There is fresh air delivered on board Amtrak every 4 to 5 minutes, and that is new air being filtered through, not recycled air. It is also contactless, so you'll hold up your ticket either on your phone or you can print it out and they'll scan it with their little wand. You never have to pass anything back and forth. And most routes, so certainly all of our long distance routes, do include private rooms if you did want to take the roomettes or bedrooms on board the train. That is an option for you. If you were just going to be on a shorter journey, let's say from Boston to Portland, just a couple hours, the coach seating is very comfortable. You have lots of legroom in coach. There are no middle seats on board Amtrak, so you do not have to worry about the middle seat problem. You've got big, beautiful picture windows. There's outlets at every seat. Now, with coach seats, you do have to pay out of pocket for food. So if you are going to be on board the train for a longer distance, you can head down to the dining car or the cafe. Essentially, it is takeout at this time. You would go down and purchase a meal and bring it on back to your seat to eat. Now, with your luggage, there's storage for your luggage overhead, or as I mentioned, there is a luggage rack at the front of each train car. You are also allowed to bring your own food and drinks on board the train. So if you're going to be going for a little bit of a shorter ride, you can easily bring a train picnic, for example, if you didn't want to purchase food on board. As we discussed earlier, all of the sleeper car passengers do have priority boarding, so a little extra perk of being in the sleeper car. Now, the first sleeper car is the roomette. The roomette accommodations on board the train are designed for 1 or 2 people. During the day, it's 2 chairs which face each other with a big, beautiful picture window, a fold-out tray, outlets, sort of the whole works there. And then at night, the seats fold down into bunk beds. So you'll get one bottom bunk, the seats make up the bottom bunk, and then the top bunk folds out from the wall. Now, with roomettes or bedrooms, you do have assistance from your sleeper car attendant. Now, the sleeper car attendant, he or she is going to be your best friend during your journey. There's great folks. They're super knowledgeable. They'll be able to tell you anything about the scenery that you're passing by. If there's a mountain out the window or whatever it might be, they can tell you where you are. There are also the folks who will change your seating down into beds at night, so you don't have to do that. The sleeper car attendant will do that for you. And then the reason I mention them at this point is that they are also responsible for keeping all of the restrooms and showers spick and span and clean and tidy. So with the roomettes, as you can kind of see in the photo there's not really any room for private facilities. So you do have the restrooms and showers just down the hall. But do keep in mind you are not sharing those facilities with the entire train. You are not even sharing them just with the folks that have, or with everybody that has a roomette. You are sharing them just with the folks that have roomettes in your particular train car. And there are multiple restrooms as well, so it's not the entire train car waiting to get into one restroom. Um, and again, the sleeper car attendants, they take great pride in their work, keeping everything clean and tidy for you. So I've never had any trouble. I typically do travel in the roomette when I do travel on board the train. And here you go, you can see them set up for nighttime. So again, it is bunk beds. Now, if you were concerned about the top bunk, they do have a little sort of safety net that you can set up if you were worried about rolling out. There are about 2 steps inside the roomette that you can use to get up to that top bunk, but I know that sometimes folks have concerns about mobility. If you do have mobility concerns, one of the things we do suggest is that you can take 2 roomettes, one roomette right across the hall from each other. You can sit together during the day, and then at night you can fold down the bottom bunk in both roomettes, and that would give each person a lower bunk, and nobody would have to climb anywhere. So just a great shot of that roomette at nighttime. You can also see he's got the curtain drawn all the way across. You've got big heavy curtains with Velcro that you can draw across so that you can prevent yourself from waking up due to sunlight, for example. There's another curtain that he can draw across that window that goes out to the hallway, so they have privacy in the evening. And as you saw in the previous slide, whether it's a roomette or bedroom, all of the private cabins have doors that lock from the inside, so you've got nice privacy door there. Now, with the bedroom, if you were looking for a little bit more space or a little bit more private facilities, the bedroom is about twice the size of the roomette. During the daytime, you can sit across from each other as you see here, or you can sit next to each other. The seat where the woman is seated is kind of like a love seat. You'll see that in the next photo. There is a little bit more space for baggage as well in a bedroom. You can see right above the gentleman's head there, he's got a little spot for a bag. And what really makes the bedroom unique and stand out is that it does have its own private facilities. So you do have a private little washroom as well as a sink and a vanity. So what that means is basically you've got the sink and the vanity. They're kind of across from the love seat, as you can kind of see in that photo, sort of very top right-hand corner of that photo, you can see that towel hanging there. That's where her sink and vanity are. If you look just to the right of that towel, right at the edge of the photo, you can actually see that on the wall there's like a little latch. That's the little latch which will take you into the your little private washroom. So it's a stall that's got a toilet and a shower in it. It's similar to a sailboat if you've ever been in a sailboat. Once you turn the shower on, you'll get that whole little stall wet, but you can see it's separated from the rest of the room by the nice little door. It kind of goes around the corner, so it is certainly private. It's only for you and your companion in your bedroom. So that's a really nice feature of the bedroom, is having that private facilities there for you. And here we have the bedroom set up at night. So this is the larger bunk on the bottom and then the slightly smaller bunk on the top bunk here for the bedroom accommodations. Now, Amtrak does also have a family room on some of their trains, which can accommodate 2 adults and 2 children, as well as an accessible room. So they do have an accessible cabin. If you did have mobility impairments, they have a cabin that's designed to accommodate a wheelchair, which does have its own private facilities. Now, with the bedrooms and roomettes, especially if you were thinking about traveling this year, you can have all of your meals delivered to you right there in your room. You order off the full menu, so you still have access to the full menu, and then they'll deliver the meal to your room at the specified time. Now, dining on board the train can be quite a fun experience. If you were looking to travel next year or a little bit later on, maybe 2022, I do expect the normal dining experience will be back available for you. I believe it's due back in December timeframe right now. So the typical dining experience, it would be to go down to the dining car, sit in the dining car, be waited on by the staff there. With COVID-19 being present, if you were looking to travel this year, this fall, they are recommending that you get the meals delivered to you in your room just so that you can ensure, better social distancing. And at this time, they do have the flexible dining menu, so the meals are still hot meals prepared right on board the train, but it's a little bit of a smaller menu than you would have in the uh, normal times, I suppose you could say. Now, if you did enjoy today's webinar, I can see that somehow we are already right at the time limit here. we do have some great upcoming webinars the rest of the month or into September, really. Um, we've got a couple National Park Series ones coming up in the middle of September, so certainly stay tuned for that. I can see we do have loads of questions. Please do feel free to type any more questions that you might have in that box. I do promise we'll get the answers over to you. I'm going to answer a few of them for you right now. And just before I do, I just want to remind you folks again of that great Discover America sale, which we have available to you. And before I answer your questions, I do have a question for you. So we are always trying to keep these presentations fun and exciting for you. We're trying to incorporate your suggestions. So we had some more East Coast trips this time, Boston, Portland, Charleston, Savannah. That's based on directly on your feedback. So I always want to know, what destinations are you interested in? And when are you interested in going? So do let me know, and we can make sure to include them in some of our upcoming presentations. And I will now answer as many questions as we have time for in the next few minutes. I can see the first question here is from Jessica, who'd like to know about the Grand Canyon and beyond trip, asking about the trips to Zion and Moab if you're taking a train up to Zion and Moab. So great question, Jessica. So no, so you would take the train into Flagstaff, and then on this particular trip, we do have a rental car for you, so you can explore the parks on your own. Now, if you did not want to rent a car, we do have some private tour options for you as well, where they can pick you up at the Grand Canyon, they can take you up to Zion and Springdale, and see those sites there on some private tours, which again is some nice options for you if you don't want to rent a car. So certainly do let us or your local travel agent know if that is a concern for you, but we can certainly set that up there for you. Next question here is from Marta. Marta would like to know about solo travel. So yes, absolutely, Marta, you can do any of these trips solo. As I mentioned with the special savings offer on the Discover America sale, that would just be the per person. So where I said save $500 per couple, you would think it's $250 per person. So you'd be saving $250 off that trip if that was the offer that applied to you. And certainly just give us a call or your local travel agent a call, and we can find out which trip you want to do and look at the solo trip for you. But they're all very comfortable, safe trips to do as a solo traveler. I've traveled solo on Amtrak on my own more than once, never had any trouble. It's a lot of fun. Actually, you can chat to some other folks in the dining car or in the lounge car, especially if you were looking to go in a few months when hopefully we won't be needing to social distance as much. But just let us know. And last question here from Greg. Greg would like to know about the dining options if they have vegetarian or kosher meals. So great question, Greg. So they do always have a vegetarian meal option. Kosher meals are also available. You just want to let us know ahead of time, and we'll let the train know that you need a kosher meal. For other dining restrictions, maybe you need a low sodium meal or something like that, just speak with your server on board the train, whether that's the person who comes to take your order at your room or whether you're traveling a little bit down the road and you go to the dining car. Just let them know what those restrictions are, and because the meals are typically prepared fresh on board, they can, certainly let you know what will and won't work for you. So that is all I have time for on questions, but do not worry, folks. I will make sure to have all of your questions answered here. I do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to spend with us today at Amtrak Vacations. I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your afternoon, and thank you again for joining me. Thank you so much.